All right. So hey guys, welcome to our Tuesday team call. I'm super excited to be co-hosting these calls with Lisa and Renee. And I think we've gotten off to an awesome start this year. And we wanted to bring you guys, personal development, more tactical, operational, things like that as we move through. So as I was talking to Lisa and Renee about what they wanted me to talk about today, something came up that Lisa asked me to talk about, and it's this idea of not preparing. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of background, and then I want to talk to you about this idea of not preparing for things. Because I know that there's all these quotes out there that say things like, if you don't prepare, you're going to fail. And there's lots of ideas around this. So I want to talk to you about just this concept and how to take action with it. So it's going to be more of a skill and a tool if you should choose to go there. Because this might be a style that works for you, but you've never really understood how to conceptually do it. So about 15 years ago, I started teaching yoga. And I'm going back that far because this is when I first realized, I first realized this when I was working in corporate America, and I'll give you that example as well. But I really first realized that when I sit down and actually try to script myself and prepare myself by making index cards, writing out sequences and things like that, that's when I get really stuck in my head. Really just not able to even get the words out because I'm so concerned about making a mistake from what was on my paper that I shut down. So I'm an extremely creative person. So many people on the call might also be very creative people. You hear people who are like, I'm a visual person and that's how I learn best. And some people learn best by tons of note taking or listening to lectures. I'm a very, I have to, if I experience it, if I ask some questions, I will pick up on the things that actually resonate in my heart. And then those are the things that I move forward with. So when I was first learning to teach yoga, just like first learning about the essential oils, the key for me was to practice. So for essential oils, what do you think that means? It means using them daily, opening up my book and researching and having my one-on-one conversations with Lisa and or Renee, coaching my people, talking just to my husband and my daughters about it. So you see, I start living this experience. And for yoga, what it was I would go and I'd practice and I would pay attention to the words the teacher was saying. I would pick up on one or two things that really resonated in my heart and I would move forward with those ideas. So in the beginning, when you're learning anything, yes, you have to study, you have to ask questions, you have to use, apply, and practice. Okay, so when you're finally standing in front of the room to give this great presentation to talk to other people, you've already been doing it, right? You've already been doing it. So then what you want to do is actually look at maybe those one or two cool facts that maybe Lisa Lermit said or somebody you heard said, and then you're like, I'm going to find a way to weave this information into my presentation, okay? So when you first start teaching classes, you have to watch other people teach classes. You have to study them teach classes. You have to take notes on the things that they might say that resonate in your heart. Because when these things start coming from deep inside of you instead of just from your mind, many of us are going through the Deb Erickson coaching and training right now. And she talks a lot about retraining your mind. Right? When we get too stuck in the facts and we get too stuck in the mind and the knowledge instead of the feeling of it, that's a lot of times when we get choked up on the details. Is anybody like resonating with this idea? Yeah, I can't see everybody, so I'm assuming a lot of you are probably shaking your head going, yes, I do. So I'm going to tell you guys a story, and then I want to kind of open this idea up to conversation a little bit. So I used to work in corporate America, and I remember I was going to London for the first time by myself to represent a project. And I was traveling with this other gentleman, and he was like my presentation idol. I remember watching him speak, and it just came out of him, okay? And when I say that I prepared for this one, I kept myself up all night studying the numbers, the keywords that I need to be saying, and to get my point across. And it sucked. It was the worst thing I think I've ever done at public speaking wise my whole entire life. And when I watched John speak, he was basically saying the same things I was, but it was just fluid. Why? Because he had been practicing it. It was ingrained in his daily routine. It was something that he just thought about all the time, and I was new, right? So my first time, I love to say this, you got to show up and suck before you can show up and shine. My first time, I was way over-prepared. I was way like in my head about what was going on, and it just didn't come across. Did I get the facts out? Absolutely. Did they understand what I was trying to teach them? 100%. But was I over-prepared? Yes. And by over-preparing, I got way caught up in my head. And I actually had someone the next day who I had a follow-up meeting, and when we were just sitting there talking, he looked right at me, he said, "Man, had you just presented like this yesterday, it would have been golden." And I was like, yeah, okay, there it is. So that was the other piece of the puzzle that clicked for me. One, if I sit there and try to write down every little detail and every little fact, and I try to say too much, like give all the science, give all the information about doTERRA as an amazing company, tell them every single way that you can possibly use the oils, right? If I get way too far into it, I never get actually anything really accomplished. And I get stuck in my head, and it feels like a big thud, right? But when you allow yourself to grab onto little sound bites here and there, and just let it be like, I'm sitting down to have coffee with someone and I want to talk to you just as a friend, it starts to feel so much more natural and so much more like, instead of a presentation, it becomes a conversation. So what I call the art of non-preparing is really when you're living life this way, when you become the oils, you become, since that's what we're talking about, I'll just use it there. When you let this be part of your life, so ingrained, and you become so passionate about it, you're able to just, it's not that you're not going to get nervous, and it's not that you don't maybe need a couple little notes just to remind yourself, but you're not going to go through this analysis paralysis in the mind and maybe say too much or get caught up on facts that really in that moment aren't necessarily the most important things for you to be sharing with the people that are sitting in front of you. And I think when you also allow yourself to speak from a place of the heart instead of the mind, you connect to people, and then you can also see what it is they need to hear. Something that you guys have probably all experienced along the way. Every class is different. Every single class is different. And if you are so in your head and caught up in just getting the facts out, and you're not paying attention to the crowd sitting in front of you, you might be talking about something that really is irrelevant to them. And really, they have no desire to do. I did that just a couple weeks ago. I started wanting to talk all about this one part of the class that I always talk about, and all of a sudden I looked out in front of me, I'm like, these guys don't want to hear this. They're not there yet. Laura knows exactly what I'm talking about. So when you allow yourself to be completely present and looking at the people that are sitting in front of you and connecting with them on that level, then it becomes less of a presentation and more of a conversation. So I'm going to stop here and just see if anybody has some questions for me. Go ahead and unmute yourselves and go crazy.
Hi, Marcia, it's Lisa.
Hey.
So I'll share. I was laughing when you were talking about your first class, because that's exactly how my first class was. Renee was there, and it was my worst class that I've ever taught, because I gave way too much information. I had like this whole script, and it was just, in my mind, I felt safe because, okay, they're going to take me seriously if I can give them all this information.
Right.
But they zoned out, and it was just overload. So I was laughing at that because I did the same thing. I think a lot of us do.
Oh yeah. And I think, Lisa, that's a really great point. I think in the beginning, that's totally natural, right? We're all I still do it to this day, but it's not because I've necessarily over prepared. What happens sometimes is when you're learning something new. So every time I take a class from you, Lisa, I hear you say something new, like a new little scientific tidbit, and I try to then implement that into my next class. And sometimes just trying to add in something different is going to throw you off a little bit. And that's okay. But I think, you know what, I'm going to give you guys this example. My daughter is a junior in high school, and she just took the SAT, the actual SAT, for the very first time. And she said, it's not that she didn't study, but she did not over prepare herself. Why do you think that? What would your gut reaction be to why my daughter did not over prepare herself for her very first SAT? Because she's never done it before, right? So she's like, I don't even know what I'm really preparing for. So she went in and she took the test, and she's like, okay, math was hard. I now know I'm going to wait and see my score, and then I'm going to know what I need to focus on next time. And her philosophy, and it's funny because this is what I always used to teach my teachers in training, is once you're good at it, don't worry about it anymore. Once you know that piece, don't go back over it again. The thing that's hard, pick it up piece by piece and work towards that, right? So she's doing that without, I never even told her to do that, so I thought that was kind of cool. But you see, if she kept trying to refine her English and math at the same time, guess what's going to happen? She's going to be a nervous wreck because she's going to be stressing herself out. Go ahead, Laura. Did you want to say something?
No, I was just agreeing with you. I said the stress. I was agreeing with the stress part.
Yeah.
It'll throw you completely off, and the entire test would have been a loss for her.
That's right. That's right. Does anybody else have any other questions?
How long has it taken everyone sort of on average to get to a point where you feel really, obviously not the first or second time you do it, do you feel really confident? But how many times has it taken you to get to where you really feel confident and you can answer every question with confidence? And I know you're always learning. You guys are always saying that you learn every single time, and I've learned something new every meeting that comes. Yeah. How long does it take you to get to the point where you really feel like you can do a class on your own and feel good about it?
I would love to hear some other people answer that question, because I think it's going to be personal, and then I think you're going to be able to hear a range for people. So does anybody want to just let Laura know what your experience has been with this? I see. Linda, go ahead.
I was going to say that I think it depends on your previous experience with presenting and training and giving a talk in front of an audience. But I think always a really good practice is to do lots of one-on-ones, because that just gives you that comfort level to practice, essentially, because it doesn't have to be as sort of presentation-y. And then once you do the presentation, it's like with everything else, like you just gotta do it. And then each time you get better with it. I would say for me, by my third, fourth class, I was seeing a significant difference in how much I knew, because the questions from the previous classes kind of led me to make sure that I would find the answers to the questions that were coming up, specifically a lot of questions around stress and anxiety, and also around weight management. And so those were subjects that then I would go and research those and be prepared for those for next time. So you're kind of like always adding on. I don't think you're ever done. It's like an ongoing journey. I mean, even for myself, I'm a nutrition and wellness coach, and I am still learning so much, even though I've studied so much over the years. So it's like, trust in the process, stay with it, and just keep adding on. Nobody expects you to know everything.
Hey, Linda, you just said something that's really great. And this is the other piece of this whole trying not to over-prepare yourself. Linda said she would, first of all, doing the one-on-ones. I think that's excellent because it is more conversational. It's a little bit more comfortable. And you don't have to like stand in front of a room and give a big talk, right? So I really like that suggestion. The other thing that you said that I really love, and I think that I just wrote it down as well, is you don't really know, you can't really prepare for these classes, guys. Because you can show up thinking, oh, I'm going to talk about winter wellness, right? And then all of a sudden, everybody wants to talk about stress.
Yeah.
But all you did was prepare to talk about winter wellness, and you're like, gosh, I don't know what I'm going to say now, right? So that's a really, really awesome way to think about this is pay attention. Again, if you're present and you're coming from your heart, you're totally paying attention to what's being asked of you. And then you can go away and go, wow, this is what I need to kind of learn about. And then you show up to the next class prepared because you already did the work. You've had some one-on-ones. You've done some research on your own. You're using your oils. And you just show up and you're like, okay, and so now people start asking you about, I don't know, sleeping better or cold sores or dry skin or something like this, right? And now you have a whole new set of things to talk about. But the thing that's awesome about this is if you do start going and researching something like weight management, you're going to learn about some certain oils. And because every oil has like 50 to 100 different uses, you're going to start to see, oh, well, actually, I remember that I could use this for this, and I bet it would help with this too. So that's a really great way to talk about it, Linda. Thank you for offering all of that.
For me, what helps with me is my own personal experience, and the more I use them, and the more using them on my family, and it helps for me to be more comfortable in presenting and just remembering what the oils are used for.
That's right. That's awesome, Danny. I can't tell. I mean, when you are living them, you're just living them, right? And you can be like, oh, yeah, I just did this the other day on my daughter, or my husband did this, right? And then you get to tell stories, which I think is what I love the most about doing this business and being in this line of work is the stories we get to share and really connect and touch people's hearts that way.
I think it's great to have the reference books, like the, both the, the Modern Essentials, like that one, and also the other one.
The really big one.
Yeah, what's it? The other one, Living
Essentials or something.
Yeah, Essential Living. It's called Essential Living. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that one is so great because people come up and say, well, I have, fibromyalgia or something. And I'm like, I don't know which oil is good for, so I'm like, great, let's look over here. And so together we'll look at the reference book. Right. And I don't think people expect us to know exactly what oil is best for what. And that's why it's so good to use the reference book.
Right. So you just brought up a great point. And along the lines of we're never going to be done learning. And in the beginning, you need to really study, right? And again, with yoga, it's the same thing. You're always learning, you're always growing. So there's essential oil summits and things like that go on. And I did one over the summer where you can listen to doctors, aromatherapists, homeopaths, all different just people who have used the oils, and they do these hour-long talks like on a topic. And you can, I sit there and just take notes. And I would hone in on the topics that, like you said, Linda, if you guys can hear my dogs, I'm so sorry, they're like down here wrestling. I would hone in, like Linda, what you said, when you really start to pay attention to what people are really asking, I would just hone in on those topics so I can learn as much as I possibly could. And I just took notes. And by listening and re-listening, taking notes, and then having those one-on-one conversations, you start to absorb that information. So you don't have to sit there and go, let me sit down and really get ready for this class tomorrow, right? There's a couple of different ways of going about it too. And, you know, for you, you might be like, I want my notes, right? I want my notes there. That's how I'm going to do this. That's great, right? And I would say, and I used to teach this in teacher training, is if you want your notes and you want to be that detailed oriented person, you probably only really need to make them one time. This information isn't really changing, right? It's not like a new oil is going to come out and all of a sudden it's going to change the philosophy of everything, right? But all you would then have to do with your notes, instead of rewriting them, is just, if you learn something new, just add that bullet point in. Right? Or maybe it's something new that you don't really want to share because it doesn't feel overly authentic for you. Okay? And then please do pick and choose, right? Like, I watched Lisa Lermette teach a class last spring, and she gave so much science information, and it just flew fluidly, or like right off her tongue. So the very next class, I tried to do that. It was awful, because that's just not me. That's not how I teach. That's not what connects me with people, right? It's like, I liken that to, in yoga, there's Iyengar style yoga, and then there's Vinyasa style yoga. Iyengar is that you will be, every little detail will be discussed, and in Vinyasa, it's more of the big picture with some facts, right? It's not like just all glossy and pretty, but there are facts in there. So then once you figure out what style resonates the best with you, that's when you're going to actually get in your kind of comfort zone in your groove as well, right? And Linda, you're also right. The other thing you said that I loved is, if you haven't done a lot of public speaking, or you haven't had to be put up in front of a room, it is going to be a little bit more comfortable in the beginning, and it might take you a little bit longer than 3 classes. You might have to, it might take, 6 or 7. And then, really by a show of hands, is anybody really always really comfortable every time they step up in front of the room? I say, if you ever really feel comfortable, then you got to go find something else to do, right? There should always be a little bit of like, I'm nervous, I don't know what to expect, kind of on the edge of your seat, wondering if you're going to remember all your materials and things like that. So, does anybody else that's on the phones that I can't see your pretty faces have anything to offer? Okay. Well, I hope, Danny, thank you for offering what you offered as well. The whole using them, I think, is really the key. And the key to success, because if you're not using your oils, and you're not participating in that lifestyle frequently and daily and often, then when you do show up, it's going to be really hard to talk to anybody about what it is these guys do. Lisa Lermette, you got anything else you want to add?
I loved what you shared. I loved how you described preparing for a class. I think that is a skill that is not taught. Like you said in the very beginning, you just have to live it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things you talked about was a connection with your audience. And you cannot do that with a piece of paper between you and your audience. Right. And that is that connection that your audience feels with you is what's going to get them to want to buy from you or sign up with you.
Right.
So there's, once you're comfortable with the oils and stuff, there's that whole other layer to you presenting. And that's where you are going to get much more benefit out of if you can concentrate on that. And it totally comes. The number, how many classes it takes to get you there is different for everybody, but it will come. So just know that. And the analogy I give people is to teaching classes. I've had quite a few people who have been hesitant to teach classes because they are scared of some aspect of it. And it's usually putting themselves up in front of people and scared of failing. Like they're going to they're not going to be polished or whatever it is. But teaching a class is like swimming. there's no way you can watch videos or read about swimming and get in the water and just do it, right? You need to get in the water and start practicing. So just commit to yourself. Your first class, it may not be pretty. Mine certainly wasn't, but I learned so much out of it that I wouldn't change a thing, you know? I can look at it, and I am such a better presenter because of it. So just remember that, guys.
Yes, Lisa, that's awesome. You were saying something and it made me think of, and I don't know, how about that? But, and look at the other thing too, and I'm going to say that every class is a success, okay? Because you walk away and you say, here's everything that I learned, right? Now, I have my own little definitions of success and successful classes, but I'm just going to say for what we're talking about today, if you can walk away and go, this is everything that went wrong, this is everything that I can control, and this is everything that was out of my control. So what went wrong and what I can change for next time, right? And then the things that were out of your control. And just understand that. And that's going to be every class. And that's why every class, no matter what happens, is a success. 100%.
And yet none of them are actually ever really the same, right?
No.
Once you read the crowd, you have your own style.
That's right.
You read the crowd and you land where you land.
That's right. Moment. Exactly. And some people are going to respond to you and some people aren't. Oh, this is what Lisa, think of this. At the end of the day, people are buying you. They aren't buying oils. They're buying their trust and their confidence in you, right? So if you are over preparing and overthinking it, and then you stand up there and you're like, right? And it's not authentic, then it's not going to work. If it's authentic and that's then that's great. That's what I'm saying about the comparison with Lisa and I tried to be all sciencey and it didn't work. And I bet if she were to try to stand up and teach like I teach, right? So that's the other thing. Like, see a variety of people teach classes, and you'll find the place where you're swimming, and your breaststroke is your breaststroke, and it's going to look different than the person in the lane next to you. And that's all that matters. Is how, it doesn't matter how you're getting there. All that matters is that you get there. Well, it's 12:30, and I know that we try to keep these running on time, so I'm going to just ask if anybody has any final questions or anything else that they want to say.
I'll just add one quick thing, because I was thinking about sort of the general class. What allowed me to kind of anchor into a one-on-one class was thinking through, how am I using my oils throughout the day? Because when you are, for example, if you're getting them to sample just the Home Essentials kit, it's 10 oils and you're going from one to the other, and there's no real anchoring in it. But if you put it into the template of a day and you say, so when I wake up in the morning, I like to use, whatever you do, and then go through the morning to start of work, to, having tummy aches after lunch, to kids bringing germs home from school, to getting homework done, to calming down in the evening. It's like, I feel that framework of having the day helps them memorize better what are sort of some of the initial ways to use the oils.
That's a really great suggestion. I like that.
Yeah,
That's good.
that's really helpful.
And it reminds me which ones I need to use more. Like, I'm like, I don't know what I would use, like, I don't know, at noon, and so I start thinking about, well, what are some of the supplements that I'm not using, or, and it helps me figure out what other oils I need to add and start using more.
That's great. I like that. I like that a lot. That's really good. Wow, guys, awesome. I love these Tuesday calls. Thanks, Renee and Lisa, again, for having it kind of go like this. I think this has been super beneficial for everybody. I don't know. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot from all of you. So thank you for always being open and sharing your journeys, because it's really super inspiring. All right, this is recorded, and I will get it all converted and everything and post it, so that if you guys want to rewatch it, or if you want to share it with anybody on your team who was unable to make it, and I'll make sure it gets posted. But you guys go have a magical day, and I'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
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 Thanks, Marcia.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.